Our strongest commander challenged the tiny human guard. 10 seconds later his weapon was broken and his career was over. I am not going to sugarcoat this. My name is Krell, and I work security on Galactic Council Station Epsilon 7. Notice I said work, not worked, because somehow, miraculously, I still have this job after what I am about to tell you. Mid-level security officer, that is me, not important enough to make real decisions but important enough to witness them going catastrophically wrong. Station Epsilon 7 is, and I am being generous here, the most boring posting in the entire Galactic Council network. We are talking about a place where the most exciting thing that happens on a typical day is someone from the Aquarian delegation accidentally flooding a bathroom. Again, those tentacled idiots never remember that their homeworld's plumbing operates on different pressure systems. But I digress. My species, the Vorthens. We are basically the middle children of the galaxy. Not particularly strong, not particularly weak, not brilliant, not stupid. We exist in that sweet spot of mediocrity that makes us perfect for security work. Because nobody finds us threatening enough to complain about. Our skin is a sort of grayish blue. We have got 4 arms, which sounds impressive until you realize 2 of them are mostly useless for anything except holding data pads. And we stand about 7 feet tall. Intimidating at first glance, forgettable at second. The day everything changed started like every other day. Boring. Soul-crushingly, mind-numbingly boring. I was standing at Checkpoint 7, scanning identification chips, watching species from across the galaxy shuffle past me with the enthusiasm of a funeral procession. My partner, Lieutenant Voss, was beside me doing that thing he does where he clicks his mandibles rhythmically when he is bored. Click, click, click. I swear to the void I was about 3 clicks away from stunning him with my pulse baton. Then the human delegation arrived. Now I had heard of humans. Everyone had. They were the new species on the block. Just figured out faster than light travel about 15 cycles ago, and they were making noise about joining the Galactic Council. Most of the established species found this hilarious. Humans came from a planet called Earth, which, according to the preliminary surveys, was classified as a Class 9 death world. But here is the thing. Humans did not look like they came from a death world. They looked soft, fragile, like someone sneezed too hard near them and they would crumble. The delegation walked through my checkpoint, and I processed them one by one. Ambassador Chen, their leader, was a short male with graying hair and these little crinkles around his eyes that I later learned meant he smiled a lot. His security team came next. Standard stuff. Then she walked through. Maya Rodriguez, according to her credentials, human female, diplomatic security operative, authorized to carry weapons. She was maybe 5.5 feet tall, which made her short even by human standards, with dark hair pulled back in what they call a ponytail. And these dark eyes that did not miss a single detail of the checkpoint. She moved like water, smooth and controlled, and something about the way she carried herself made my secondary arms twitch nervously. But Commander Thask saw something completely different. Thask is, or rather was, the head of station security. A Kredian, which means he stood about 9 feet tall, had muscles on his muscles, skin like polished obsidian, and an ego the size of a small moon. Kredians are strong. Stupidly strong. They come from a high-gravity world, not quite as extreme as a death world, but enough that they consider themselves the premier warrior species in this sector. Thask had been station commander for 6 cycles, and he had spent every single one of those cycles making sure everyone knew how incredibly important and powerful he was. When the human delegation passed, Thask was holding court with his elite guard, a bunch of hand-picked officers from various warrior species, who spent more time polishing their armor than actually doing security work. I heard him laugh, that deep booming sound that echoed off the station walls. Look at them, he said, not even bothering to lower his voice. The mighty humans. I have seen Teruvian children more intimidating, and Teruvians are herbivores. His guards laughed. Of course they laughed. They always laughed at Thask's jokes, even when they were not funny, which was most of the time. Voss clicked his mandibles next to me. Commander seems to be in a good mood, he muttered. Commander is an idiot, I replied quietly, making sure my voice did not carry. Did you see how that human female moved? That was not normal. She is tiny, Voss said, shrugging his primary shoulders. What is she going to do? Bite his ankles? I wish I could say I defended the humans in that moment. I wish I could say I recognized the danger. But I did not. I just watched as Commander Thask made the worst decision of his entire military career, and I did absolutely nothing to stop it. Commander Thask decided, in his infinite wisdom, that the human delegation needed to understand the pecking order on Station Epsilon 7. He stood up from his ridiculous throne-like chair, honestly, who approved that furniture budget, and walked directly into the path of the departing humans. Ambassador Chen stopped, his expression polite but wary. Maya Rodriguez stepped slightly forward, positioning herself between Thask and the ambassador. Professional. Textbook protection detail positioning. I noticed. Thask apparently did not. Ambassador Chen, Thask said, his voice dripping with false courtesy. Welcome to Station Epsilon 7. I trust you understand that security here is of paramount importance. We maintain the highest standards. He paused, looking down at Maya with what I can only describe as theatrical condescension. I notice your security team is rather, how shall I say this, compact. Are you certain they are adequately trained for potential threats? Oh no. Oh no. I felt my stomach drop. Well, the Vorthan equivalent of a stomach. Voss stopped clicking his mandibles. Even he could sense where this was going. Ambassador Chen smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. I assure you, Commander, our security personnel are more than capable. Maya here has been with the diplomatic corps for 8 years. She has handled situations on 17 different worlds. 17 worlds, Thask repeated, as if he were tasting the words and finding them bland. Impressive. I have served on 43 stations and planetary outposts. Tell me, Operative Rodriguez, what is the gravity on your Earth? Maya's expression did not change. 9.8 meters per second squared, Commander. Standard Earth gravity. Uinakath laughed. Axtally. Laughed. 9.8. How quaint. Cridilon, my home world, operates at 15.2. We are forged in conditions your species could barely survive, and yet here you stand entrusted with protecting your ambassador in a station that houses some of the most dangerous species in the known galaxy. Here I stand, Maya agreed, her voice level, almost bored. That should have been Thask's first warning. When someone stays that calm while being insulted, they either have nothing to prove or everything to prove. Maya fell into the former category, but Thask was on a roll. His elite guards had gathered around, and a small crowd was forming. Station personnel, delegates from other species, even a few maintenance workers stopped to watch. Thask lived for an audience. Perhaps, he said, drawing out the word like he was savoring expensive wine. A small demonstration would be appropriate, just to ensure that Council security standards are being met. Purely routine, you understand.
What kind of demonstration?
Ambassador Chen asked, and I could hear the edge in his voice now. The other humans in the delegation had shifted. Subtle movements, but they were ready for trouble. Thask gestured, and one of his guards brought forward a device I recognized immediately. A gravity net projector. My secondary arms actually twitched in alarm. Let me explain something about gravity nets. They are probably the most effective non-lethal restraint device ever created. The technology is Yarvine in origin, those floating jellyfish-looking scientists who exist in zero-gravity environments, and it works by creating a localized gravity field that expands outward in a net-like pattern. Once it touches a target, it wraps around them and increases the gravity field to roughly 3 times standard galactic measure. Everything caught in the net becomes too heavy to move. Limbs stop working. Most species black out from the pressure, and Credians, with all their strength and high gravity adaptation, cannot break free once they are caught. Nobody escapes a gravity net. Nobody. It is physics. You cannot punch physics. The simple test, Thask announced to the growing crowd. I will deploy a gravity net. If Operative Rodriguez can avoid being restrained, I will personally apologize and acknowledge the competence of human security force. If she cannot, well, perhaps Earth should reconsider the qualifications for their diplomatic protection teams, the crowd murmured. Some species looked uncomfortable. The Aquarian delegate, a decent fellow named Bloop, actually his name translated to something with 12 syllables but everyone called him Bloop, started to object, but his aide pulled him back. Maya looked at Ambassador Chen. The ambassador's jaw clenched, and for a moment I thought he would refuse. Then Maya spoke, so quietly that only those of us close by could hear. It is fine, sir. Let him have his show. Maya, Chen started, but she shook her head. Trust me, sir. This will be educational. She stepped forward, into the open space that the crowd had naturally formed. She rolled her shoulders, casual like she was warming up for a morning jog, and looked at Thask with an expression that I later realized was pure predatory assessment. She was measuring him. Calculating. Planning. Thask smirked, holding up the gravity net projector. Whenever you are ready, Operative Rodriguez. Please, try to make this interesting. Voss leaned toward me. "This is wrong," he whispered. "Krell, this is really wrong. We should stop this." "We are mid-level security," I whispered back. "What are we supposed to do? Tell the station commander to stand down in front of 50 witnesses? Our careers would be over." "They might be over anyway," Voss muttered. He had no idea how right he was. Maya settled into a stance, weight balanced, and nodded once. "Ready when you are, Commander." Thask raised the projector, his finger on the activation trigger, his expression triumphant. "Do not worry," he called out loudly. "Medical is on standby. The gravity net is non-lethal, though I cannot promise it will not be uncomfortable. 3 times standard gravity is quite unpleasant for species from low-gravity worlds." "Commander," Maya said, and her voice had this edge to it now, sharp and cold. "You might want to have medical on standby for yourself." Thask blinked, confusion crossing his face for just a moment. Then he laughed, and his guards laughed, and half the crowd laughed, and I did not laugh at all because I was too busy calculating how quickly I could update my resume. Skiing. Pressed the trigger. The gravity net projector hummed to life with that distinctive high-pitched whine that every security officer in the galaxy knows. The device glowed blue, energy building in the core visible through the transparent casing that Yarveen technology always featured. Thask held it steady, aimed directly at Maya's center mass, and the whine climbed higher, until it hit that perfect note that meant full charge. Then he fired. The net exploded outward in a shimmering cascade of blue energy threads, each strand pulsing with gravitational force. It expanded as it traveled, growing from the size of a fist to a sphere easily 10 feet in diameter within the first second. The pattern was beautiful, honestly mathematical precision made visible, hexagonal cells forming and reforming as the net rushed through the air toward Maya Rodriguez at roughly 40 meters per second. Standard deployment. Textbook perfect. Absolutely inescapable. Maya did not flinch. That was the first thing that registered in my mind. Every species, and I mean every single species that has ever been hit with a gravity net, they flinch. Survival instinct. Self-preservation. The lizard brain, as humans would say, sees something dangerous coming and tells the body to move, duck, dodge, something. Maya stood there, watching the net approach with the same expression someone might use while waiting for a shuttle, mildly attentive, slightly bored. The crowd had gone silent. Even Thask's guards stopped their smug chuckling. The net closed the distance in less than 2 seconds. At 1 second out, Maya shifted her weight, a tiny movement barely noticeable. Her right foot slid back maybe 3 inches. Her hands, which had been relaxed at her sides, came up slightly, not in a defensive posture, just raised, like she was about to catch something fragile. At half a second out, the net began to collapse inward, the hexagonal pattern tightening, preparing to wrap around its target and create that crushing gravity field. The blue glow intensified. The hum became almost subsonic, a pressure you felt in your bones, and Maya smiled. Not a big smile, just a tiny quirk at the corner of her mouth. The kind of smile that said she knew something the rest of us did not, and she was about to share that knowledge in the most dramatic way possible. Then, and I swear to every deity in every pantheon across the galaxy that I am not exaggerating this, time seemed to slow down. The net was maybe 3 feet away when Maya moved. Her right leg snapped upward in a motion so fast my eyes almost could not track it. Humans call it a knee strike, I learned later. A simple, basic, fundamental fighting technique that human children learn in their self-defense classes. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated, just raw biomechanical efficiency. Her knee came up, and here is where things got really interesting. The net hit her leg first, the energy strands making contact with her shin, her knee starting to wrap around the limb, beginning the gravity multiplication process that should have locked her entire leg in place and brought her crashing down under 3 times her body weight. Should have. Instead, her knee continued upward, and I watched, my 4 eyes wide open in absolute disbelief, as the gravity net, the unbreakable, inescapable physics-based restraint system, started to bend around her knee like it was hitting something solid. No, not just solid, unyielding. The energy strands compressed, distorted, and the hexagonal pattern warped, as Maya's leg drove upward with what must have been absolutely incredible force. The sound came next. A sharp crack like ice breaking on a frozen lake, but louder, sharper, echoing off the station walls. The gravity net, and I am still having trouble processing this even now. The gravity net split. Right down the middle. The energy strands snapped apart, blue light fragmenting into 1,000 tiny sparks that scattered in all directions like startled fish. Maya's knee reached the apex of its arc, roughly chest height, and she held it there for a fraction of a second, perfectly balanced on one leg, the remains of the gravity net dissolving around her in a shower of fading blue light. Then, with that same water-smooth control I had noticed earlier, she lowered her leg back down, settled her weight, and stood there in the exact same spot she had started in. Not moved, not knocked down, not even slightly off balance. The silence that followed was the kind of silence that happens when an entire crowd of sentient beings simultaneously questions everything they thought they knew about reality. I heard someone's datapad clatter to the floor. Someone else made a sound like a deflating balloon. Voss, next to me, had stopped breathing. I know because Vorthans make this little whistling sound when we breathe, and that sound had completely stopped. Maya brushed a small piece of dust off her sleeve, looked up at Thask and said, in that same calm, level voice, "That was interesting. Would you like to try again, Commander?" Thask stood frozen, the gravity net projector still raised, still aimed at where Maya stood completely unharmed. His obsidian skin had somehow gone pale, which I did not even know was physically possible for Cretians. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. He looked like a fish trying to breathe air, which, given that there was an Aquarian in the crowd, felt particularly ironic. The other humans in the delegation, I noticed, were not surprised. Not even a little bit. Ambassador Chen had his arms crossed, his expression neutral, but I caught the tiniest hint of satisfaction in his eyes. The rest of Maya's security team, 3 other humans, all of them looking equally small and unimpressive, were smirking. Actually smirking, like this was exactly what they had expected to happen. One of them, a tall male with red hair, leaned over to his companion and said, not even bothering to whisper, "I told you she would use the knee. You owe me 20 credits. I thought she would front kick it," the other replied. "That would have been cooler. The knee is classic Maya. Simple, effective, makes the point." They were betting on this. They were betting on how their teammate would break the unbreakable net. What in the name of the void had we just witnessed? The silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity but was probably only 10 seconds. 10 very long, very uncomfortable seconds during which every being in that corridor tried to reconcile what they had just seen with everything they thought they knew about physics, biology, and the natural order of the galaxy. Thask recovered first, which made sense because the alternative was standing there looking like an idiot indefinitely. His face, which had gone pale, now flushed a deep purple. Anger. Humiliation. Probably some existential dread mixed in there too. "That is impossible," he said, his voice rough. "Gravity nets cannot be broken. The technology is proven. The physics are sound." "The physics are fine," Maya replied, still standing in that relaxed posture that now seemed a lot less casual and a lot more dangerous. "The problem is your assumptions about who you were using it on." "Explain," Thask demanded, but his voice had lost that commanding boom. Now he just sounded confused and angry, like a child whose favorite toy had broken in an unexpected way. Maya looked at Ambassador Chen, who nodded permission. She turned back to address the crowd, because by now at least 70 people had gathered, including station personnel from 3 different shifts who had abandoned their posts to watch. Commander Thask mentioned that Earth has a gravity of 9.8 meters per second squared. What he failed to consider is what that means for human evolution and biology. She started walking slowly as she talked, not toward anyone, just pacing slightly, and I noticed everyone took an involuntary step back. Predator movement. We were watching a predator explain why she was a predator. Earth is classified as a Class 9 death world. Do you know what that means? It means everything on my planet is actively trying to kill everything else. The weather wants to kill you. The animals want to kill you. The plants, some of them want to kill you. The microorganisms definitely want to kill you. Humans did not evolve in a nice, safe environment. We evolved in a place where if you were not strong enough, fast enough, smart enough, you died. Simple as that. Bloop, the Aquarian delegate, raised one tentacle nervously. But your gravity is relatively standard. Many species live under similar conditions. Standard gravity, yes, Maya agreed. But constant gravity, unrelenting, every single day, every single moment. Earth's gravity is pulling on us. Our muscles adapted. Our bones adapted. Human bone density is roughly 3 times higher than the galactic average. Our muscle fiber composition is optimized for explosive power and endurance simultaneously. A human in standard galactic gravity, which most stations including this one maintain at about 7.5 meters per second squared, is essentially operating in reduced gravity all the time. Voss made a strangled sound next to me. I understood why. The implications were staggering. So when you hit me with that gravity net, Maya continued, looking directly at Thaskings, which increased the localized gravity to 3 times standard. You brought it up to roughly 22.5 meters per second squared. That is heavy. That is uncomfortable, but it is only about twice what I experience every single day on Earth. My legs are designed to move my body mass in 9.8 meter per second squared gravity. You just asked them to perform a simple motion in a field that, while heavy, was still within operational parameters. You are saying, I heard myself speak before my brain could stop me, that you just powered through it, through a gravity net? Maya looked at me, and I wished I had kept my mouth shut. Not through it, officer. Krell, I managed. Just Krell. Officer Krell, she said, nodding politely. I did not power through the net. That would be difficult even for a human. The net was already deployed and expanding. What I did was strike it at the right angle during formation, when the energy matrix was still stabilizing. The gravitational force was distributed across a relatively small impact point, my kneecap, which is one of the hardest bones in the human body. I generated enough kinetic force to disrupt the matrix cohesion. Basic physics, really. Force times velocity equals broken net. Basic physics, Thask repeated, his voice hollow. You calculated all of that in under 2 seconds? Honestly? Maya shrugged. It was instinct. We drill against restraint systems constantly in diplomatic security training. Gravity nets, neural disruptors, plasma bonds, cryofields. If someone wants to grab a human, we train to make that as difficult as possible. The red-haired human from earlier laughed, loud and genuine. Maya makes it sound so technical. The reality is she just saw something coming at her and thought, hey, I bet I can knee that. Marcus, shut up, Maya said, but she was smiling now too. No, I am serious, Marcus continued, addressing the stunned crowd with obvious enjoyment. This is what humans do. We see a problem. We think, can I hit it? And then we hit it to see what happens. Maya here has kicked down reinforced doors, punched through security glass, and one time, tell them about the time with the Zargon enforcer droid. We are not telling that story, Maya said firmly. She had butted it, Marcus announced gleefully. Dented the chassis. Ambassador Chen cleared his throat. Perhaps we should move along. We have a schedule to keep, and I believe Commander Thask has some equipment to repair. Dask looked down at the gravity net projector in his hands. It was smoking slightly. The core burned out from the feedback when the net had fractured. The Ovine technology was delicate. It did not handle catastrophic failures well. That projector was now an expensive paperweight. This is not over, Thask said, but his heart was not in it. He sounded defeated, broken, like someone who had just realized that the universe was much larger and more complicated than he had thought. I think it is, Commander, Ambassador Chen said quietly. We will be reporting this incident to Station Command, of course. Unauthorized testing of weapons on diplomatic personnel tends to create unfortunate incident reports. The crowd began to disperse, everyone talking at once, the volume rising as various species processed what they had seen. I heard at least 6 different languages, all of them variations on the same theme. Did you see that? The human broke a gravity net. Broke it. With her leg. What kind of species can do that? Voss turned to me, his mandibles clicking rapidly. Stress reaction. Krell, did we just watch a human female, who weighs maybe 130 pounds, destroy military-grade restraint technology with her knee? Yes, I said, because what else was there to say? Yes, we did. Voss, I think we need to recalibrate everything we know about humans. I think everyone needs to recalibrate everything they know about humans, Voss replied. He was right. But the real recalibration was about to happen when Station Command reviewed the security footage. I found out later because everyone found out later, that 3 different members of the station's leadership council watched the recording, watched Maya split that gravity net, and then immediately went into emergency session to discuss security protocols regarding human visitors. One of them, the Arvine scientist who had helped design the gravity net system, reportedly said, "That should not be possible. That cannot be possible. I need to run simulations. I need to understand this. What are humans? What are humans indeed?" So here I am, 3 months later, still working security on Station Epsilon 7, and let me tell you, things have changed around here. Dramatically, hilariously, permanently. The story spread like a virus through the station's communication network. By the end of that first day, everyone knew. By the end of the first week, everyone in the sector knew. By the end of the first month, the footage had somehow leaked onto the galactic information networks, and Maya Rodriguez kneeing a gravity net into oblivion became the most watched security recording in council history. Someone even put music to it. Terrible music, some kind of human genre called rock and roll, but it got millions of views. Commander Thask, poor miserable Thask, did not fare well in the aftermath. Station Command reviewed the footage, reviewed his decision to essentially assault a diplomatic security officer without provocation, and decided that perhaps someone with such catastrophically poor judgment should not be in charge of station security. He was demoted. Rios, last I heard, he is working inventory management on a mining station in the Outer Rim, counting ore shipments, no gravity nets involved. Probably for the...
I got promoted.
Yes, promoted. Apparently the fact that I looked deeply uncomfortable during the whole incident and did not participate in the mockery counted as good judgment. I am now station security supervisor, which means I have an office, a slightly better salary, and a whole lot more paperwork. Voss got promoted too. We are co-supervisors. He stopped clicking his mandibles nervously and started clicking them smugly instead. It is marginally less annoying. The human delegation stayed on the station for 2 weeks. During that time I made it my personal mission to actually talk to them, to learn about them, to understand what we were dealing with. Maya, it turned out, was remarkably patient with my question. She explained Earth, described the wildlife that sounded absolutely terrifying, told me about creatures called hippos and cassowaries and Komodo dragons that could kill humans, and yet humans just lived alongside them like it was normal. We have apex predators that hunt us, she said one day over what humans call coffee and what I call bitter sludge. Had them anyway, before we became the apex predators ourselves. Humans were prey animals first. That is why we have forward-facing eyes, why we develop tools and cooperation, why we are so paranoid about threats. We had to be, or we died, and now you travel the stars. I said, sipping my own drink, something with actual flavor, carrying all that survival instinct with you. Pretty much. She agreed. We are friendly, Krell. We want to join the galactic community, make friends, trade technology and culture. But we are also a species that survived by being very, very good at not dying. That does not go away just because we built spaceships. We became friends, I think. As much as a Vorthan security officer and a human diplomatic operative can be friends. She taught me some basic human self-defense techniques, though I was nowhere near strong enough or fast enough to execute them the way she did. I taught her some Vorthan meditation practices which she said helped with stress management. Cultural exchange. That is what the council is supposed to be about, right? When the human delegation left, Maya shook my hand, a human gesture I had learned, meant respect and farewell, and said, "Thanks for not being like Thask, Krell. The galaxy needs more people who think before they act. The galaxy needs fewer people who challenge humans to physical contests," I replied. "That seems like a safer policy overall." She laughed at that. Humans laugh a lot, I have learned. It is one of their better qualities. These days Station Exelon 7 runs a lot more smoothly. We treat visiting humans with the same respect we treat Kredians, or Yarveen, or any of the other species that could cause serious problems if provoked. We do not test them. We do not challenge them. We certainly do not deploy gravity nets at them for entertainment purposes. I have made it mandatory training for all new security personnel to watch the footage of Maya and the gravity net. Not as a joke, as a lesson. The lesson being this: appearances mean nothing. Assumptions will kill you. Just because a species looks soft, or weak, or harmless, does not mean they are. Humans survived a death world. They evolved under conditions that would break most of us. They are polite, friendly, eager to cooperate, and absolutely not to be underestimated. Last week a new security officer fresh from the academy, some cocky Tralvian kid with more muscles than brains, watched a human family walk through the checkpoint, and muttered something about them looking fragile. I pulled him aside immediately. "Let me tell you a story," I said, pulling up the footage on my datapad. "This is a story about a commander who thought the same thing. He does not work here anymore." The kid watched, his eyes getting wider and wider as Maya's knee split that net apart. When it finished, he looked at me and said, "That is impossible." "That is what everyone says," I replied. "Right up until they see it happen. Now go back to your post and remember this. If something comes from Earth, treat it with respect. Their children are stronger than most adult species. Their elderly have more bone density than our warriors. They are kind until you give them a reason not to be. And then, well, then you end up counting ore shipments on a mining station." The kid nodded, pale and nervous, and went back to his checkpoint. He has been very polite to every human who has passed through since then. Very polite indeed. As for me, I drink my flavored beverages, do my paperwork, keep the station running smoothly, and I never ever challenge humans to physical contests. I recommend this policy highly. It has served me well. It could serve you well too. Because here is the thing about humans, the real secret that everyone in the galaxy is slowly learning. They look like prey. They act like prey sometimes, nervous and jumpy and always watching for threats. But somewhere in their evolutionary history, prey became predator, and they never forgot how to do both. That combination, that weird mix of caution and capability, of friendliness and ferocity, that is what makes them dangerous. That is what makes them human. And that, my friends, is why you never ever throw a gravity net at a human diplomat. They might just knee it in half, smile at you, and ask if you want to try again. Trust me on this one. I saw it happen. My name is Krell, Station Security Supervisor, and I learned my lesson the easy way, by watching someone else make the mistake. Learn from Thask's failure. Be smarter than Thask. The bar is low, but it is important. Stay safe out there. The universe is full of surprises, and some of them have 2 legs, forward-facing eyes, and way more muscle density than physics says they should have. You have been warned.